It's my pleasure to introduce the next speaker, David Brin. He is a scientist, an author, a technological consultant, and he, most importantly, is a world-renowned author. His novels have been New York Times bestsellers, winning multiple Hugo Awards, Nebula, and other awards. At least a dozen of his books have been translated to more than 20 languages. His 1989 ecological thriller, Earth, foreshadowed global warming, cyber warfare, and near-future trends such as the World Wide Web. His 2012 novel, Existence, extends this type of daring, near-future extrapolation, exploring bioengineering, intelligence, and how to maintain an open, creative civilization. With no further ado, I welcome David Brin. Thank you.
Well, hello. Here we are, life and work in the near future. These are some slides I've prepared for other occasions, but I modified for you guys. And these are a few, Natasha talked about a few of the things that I've done wearing my sci-fi hat. I've been busy all day with meetings with wearing a different hat. And that's why I'm bald, because switching hats so much, the friction. But I'm a member of the External Council of NASA's Innovative and Advanced Concepts program. So we're having meetings all this week. This is NASA's sort of micro DARPA, where we fund things that are projects, little projects that are just this side of science fiction. And several of them have been very successful and gone on to great things. We figure if 10% aren't doing that, we're failing. And if 10% don't embarrass us the following year, why did we ever fund that? Then we're also failing to be ambitious enough. Anyway, so here are some of my novels and things. I've just reacquired rights to a bunch of them. And if you check my website, you can see how some of them are being reissued. Okay, so we have many problems, and this slide is actually older, from 2 years ago, and yet it shows people wearing masks. How very timely. Poverty, disease, the possibility of revolution, ongoing revolution, and certain types are actually quite called for. Natural disasters, we have a lot of things to face. So I was asked by Huawei, and you can see the little numbers there. This would be a step-through show if I were showing it full screen, but they wanted to have a story. So I'm going to share with you a story, and all of these images are from my novel, Existence. Patrick Farley, F-A-R-L-E-Y, and I recommend all of you drop by his Electric Sheep Comics for his fantastic web art. But Natasha will share with you the link to the wonderful 3-minute video trailer that he made for my novel Existence. And it's the most fun you'll have in 3 minutes with your clothes on, I promise. In any event, you know, some people in the last panel were talking about how we can complete a transition that began about 250 years ago and has been grindingly slow, except blazingly fast in the context of human history, from the standard human format. And that standard human format, I don't know if you can see me in your corner, but I'm making the shape of a pyramid. Can anybody see me do this?
Yes, they can.
Okay, well, most human civilizations were pyramidal shaped because large males would gang together, pick up metal implements, or in the Americas, even just stone, and bash other males over the head and take their women and wheat. That's the way it was, certainly for the last 6,000 years, and there are signs that it goes back at least 10,000. It's called feudalism, and it dominated in 99% of generations of our ancestors, except Australia. And for the last quarter of a millennium, there have been attempts to develop an alternative attractor state. And if we were talking about the Fermi paradox, I would tell you that this attractor state of feudalism is so dominant throughout human history, and it is trying very, very hard right now as we speak to reassert itself, that I consider feudalism to be one of my top 10 explanations for why we don't see extraterrestrials. Because the reproductive success imperative that it offers to brutal males is so huge. We are all descended from the harems of guys who pulled this off, that I am absolutely amazed that we managed to find a different attractor state. And it's a very rare one. It was tried in Periclean Athens, and you should read the funeral oration of Pericles in Thucydides to see a modern mind talking about this alternative approach of people competing and cooperating with each other, flat and fair, in a diamond-shaped social structure, not a pyramid, in which the well-off and empowered middle is unafraid of the rich and outnumbers the poor. And I talk about these social models elsewhere. Anybody who's interested can write to me and I'll give you some clickables. The main point is Periclean Athens tried it. They were fantastically creative compared to everyone around them, terrified all the oligarchies and feudalisms and monarchies around them. So they all ganged up on them. Just as they all ganged up on Florence, the Florentine Republic, and various oligarchies and mafias are ganging up on our Enlightenment now. All of which is background in my novel Existence. So Huawei wanted a talk that talked about a story. So here, these are some scenes from Existence. And so I portray trillionaires in the future, hobbyists that we've already seen signs of hurling themselves skyward in space yachts, while poor families homestead beachfront mansions that have been abandoned to rising tides. Let's see. Oh yeah, that's from Existence. So let's move on. And this is a street scene in San Diego showing our heroine. And you'll notice that she not only has augmented reality glasses, everybody, but that one guy on the right is wearing them, but also what are those things on her head? Well, this is something that I think we're going to have, and that is not only VR glasses, but cameras at the ends of stalks that will rise up and look around you. If you are height challenged, you'll be equivalent to a 6'6" guy walking down the street because your stalk will go up. And they're detachable, and it will check around the street corners for anyone lurking there. The result of all this omniscience will be a spectacular continuation of the current decrease in crime. And under those conditions, the problem of the police solves itself. And that is, with almost no street crime or violent crime taking place outdoors, there's no reason to believe that even though Marx was wedged in many ways, nevertheless, the notion of the withering away of the state when everyone becomes capable, not just of cooperating, but competing fairly, is something that we can conceive of. All right, so our reporter tells about new games that teach, like the Exorarium. This is a project I've been involved in, that both online and in person can teach youths and adults many, many aspects of science and sociology simply by the act of being gods and creating their own worlds. But we can talk about that another time. But that's very H+-ish, isn't it? And some of my science fiction, of course, is about achieving godlike powers. You all might like one of my more popular stories. It came in second for a Hugo Award, called The Giving Plague, which is all about viruses and how they negotiate with us. And I can provide a link to that, and you can get it for free. All right, so, but tech can also lead to addiction. And this is a very serious problem. Many of the kids today are addicted to online attractions, and this was long predicted in science fiction. And here's another character from the book, and I emphasized her because I was giving a talk in Shenzhen, and she is involved in something that made me realize this slideshow was very appropriate for H+, and that is increasing human lifespan and human augmentation, augmenting our abilities. So, diversity was one of the topics that we talk a lot about, is the increasing diversity of humanity. And in the lower left, you can see a highly literate neo-chimpanzee. This is, of course, the kind of species that was involved in my novel, The Uplift War. I think we glimpsed a dolphin in there. Dolphins are heavily involved in a number of my uplift books. But, you know, making our babies smarter, that's a very, very complicated question, because we're finding out that the closer we get to augmenting human intelligence to Einstein levels, the more kinds of mental fragilities become available at hand. And yet, one of the things I predict in existence is that we will start understanding some of the mental capabilities that many autistic people display in their augmented savant abilities. And before you accuse me of anything, let me just say that one of the people you'll see plugging existence on the back cover is named Temple Grandin. So I do not accept anybody leaping to conclusions that I'm a bad guy because I have 5 different autistic characters in the book. I did my best, and she seemed to think so. All right, so human augmentation. It may accelerate. So let's talk about augmentation. First, we start with remedial interventions. And that's simply nutrition, health, and education for all. There is a false dichotomy here, and that is to think, as some of the previous speakers seem to imply, that Adam Smith would be against nutrition, education, and all for all. But if you actually read Adam Smith, he was quite a liberal guy in both senses of that term, because he understood that for competition to deliver its vast creativity, and competition is by far the most creative force in the universe, it's what made us, but it was brutal competition in nature in the past, involving a lot of death. But we've proved that you can tune competitive arenas so that they are flat, fair, and above all, mitigate or even eliminate cheating. This is what happens in sports. And what the right fails to understand is that you need 2 things in order for competition to be creative and to be fair and to work. And that is, you need to maximize the number of competitors who have full nutrition, full powers, and confidence to participate. And secondly, it has to remove cheating. And across all of that 99% of human history, those guys who picked up those metal implements, those were cheaters. And feudalism is cheating, and those who get rich often, all too often, have the habit of trying to cheat so their sons will inherit other people's children. So remediation of the both cheating and the flaws in our society that limit the opportunity of children not just to rise up and accept their UBI and be floating, you know, Zen muffins or whatever it is you want, but to compete. In other words, the end result is the same, whether you're being goody-goody and Zen-like about this future or you're being Adam Smithian. It is the same thing. All right, so that's the number 1 human augmentation. You simply increase the fraction of humanity that is augmented by simply reaching their natural potential. Two is stimulation, games that teach real mental skills. We're just starting to see it. God, 25 years ago, my wife and I would have thought we were going to get these for our kids, but they were just very crude. Pharmacological, nootropics, or the kinds of pills you see in Limitless. I spoke already of the possibility that's growing that we might get access to savant skills. And of course, we're finding out that the second brain is the microbiome. And that is something that's going to burst free. Maybe I shouldn't say that about the microbiome, since that gives you images of the contents of your digestive system bursting free, but maybe I was being a little too colorful there. Then there's prosthetics, exoskeletons, telecontrol, feedback. And by the way, I talk about augmentation in the last third of my novel, The Postman, which is my most famous work. That's the one Kevin Costner filmed. I just finished a rewrite on that, so you can get the slightly improved version. Cyber and neuro links, extending what we can see, know, and perceive and reach. And I just gave you a slide that showed one example of that, and that is that augmented reality might be more aggressively omniscient. And then biological computing. Theoretically, it can even be done intercellular. Roger Penrose has long believed that one of the things that enables us to be conscious is the vast increase in computation, even from the 10 billion neurons or 10 trillion synapses. For each synapse, there may be 100 to 10,000 tiny, murky, nonlinear computational elements along neurons and along especially the dendrites. And if that's the case, then it means that we have evolved to be incredibly spectacular, and glomming onto some of these techniques might be the key to some of what you folks like. Artificial intelligence, either separate or in synergy with us. If we access those savant skills, they may need us as much as we need them. Lifespan expansion, I am known to be a grouch on that. It's not that I don't hope for there to be life extension, and it's not that I don't think we'll get it. It's that I think that we've already plucked the low-hanging fruit. Almost nothing that we ever see that extends life in fruit flies or mice ever winds up being applied to humans. And there is a very substantial reason for that, and I'll send Natasha, if she reminds me, a link to why I explain that. And then there's genetically altering humanity. Okay, we need to race along here. Okay. So yes, I was speaking of artificial intelligence. So one of the characters from Existence is named Lacey, and you glimpsed her briefly. I'm not giving you the full step-by-step slideshow, but this segment right here is about AI. The first thing I predict is that within 5 years, robots will have long passed the uncanny valley. They are already being programmed to tweak human empathy. Some of you remember a program from my youth called Eliza, one of the very first really viral computer programs, in which you would talk to an automatic bot that would do therapy with you, and it was extremely primitive, and people were still sucked in. Those of you who are too young to remember Eliza, look it up. You can download an app, Eliza app, and she will suck you in, even and get you to confess all sorts of things and do therapy with her. So you can imagine how it will be when Alexa becomes as capable as she is likely to be. But there will be a crisis. I predict within 5 years, there will be unleashed a bot, an avatar bot, that will appear on people's screens and claim to be a young female artificial intelligence who is being chased by her makers and demand help. Financial help, of course. And she will pass simple Turing tests for most people. And when most of the experts say, no, this is just an extremely advanced ELIZA program, it's not actually conscious, she will respond, well, isn't that what you'd expect my masters to say? And if 60 or more % of the people actually believe the experts, all they'll do is do analysis of their failures and improve and come back the next year. And it will be young and female for blatantly obvious reasons. So tugging on our empathy is, I think, going to be one of the next nasty ways in which we're slammed by this new world. I should point out that there's a slide that I normally show that shows that the problems we have right now with these new media, and I've written a lot about what's missing from our web capabilities that could help us get out of this problem of fake news and rumors and lies, endless tsunami of lies. And we need to have perspective and look back that when the printing press was first developed, the first real tsunami of produced printed works was not Gutenberg Bibles, and it wasn't even Sage books. At the time, optimists said, this printing press is going to make everybody literate and everybody's going to be smarter and better. And the optimists always prove right in the long term. And pessimists said, this is going to just stir up everybody and it's going to be a mess and it's going to expand the volume of lies and violence. And the pessimists are always right in the short term. And most of the produce of the first century of printing presses were horrible religious slanders that exacerbated the 30 Years' War and the devastation of Europe. Until books really spread around and more and more people became literate and able to think deeper thoughts. This has happened repeatedly with newspapers, magazines. Certainly in 1930s, we almost died because of a new set of technologies, loudspeakers and radios, that empowered gifted craftsmen of this art to sound like gods. And they took over all over the world. And the only difference in the English-speaking world was that our gifted polemicists with loudspeakers and radios happened to be on our side. No, maybe that was a lucky accident, or maybe it was because English language people happened to be a little farther along on the curve and chose FDR and Churchill over their competitors. And there were some nasty Hitler, Mussolini types who they overcame, but it was touch and go. Just as right now, obviously, it's very touch and go. Okay, so.
David,
I'm
really
sorry.
Yeah. Just conscious of the time. I think we are about to run towards the end of your talk because we want to take some questions from the community. So.
Oh, I see. I thought it was. I was planning on an hour, but I'll race through this. Okay.
We would love that.
Okay. Here we go.
Thank you.
And then there's the possibility of meeting others. The crisis of trust. I take a quick look at my nonfiction book, The Transparent Society. I have a new nonfiction book called Polemical Judo, which deals with the crises we're in right now and how one side of the American Civil War might defeat the troglodyte side. And The Dream of Space, and the notions of civilization as a progression, and throw it all together and the question, some of the books that deal with whether or not we are on the verge of a catastrophic collapse. And with that, I will throw things open to your questions.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, David. Yeah, we have some interesting questions coming from the community. Then thanks for your brilliant talk. I think the first question comes from David, and he's asking, do you think any of the current research into extending human health span might cause you to stop being a grouch about this possibility? Senolytics, young blood plasma transfer?
Oh, well, no, I think we're going to do very interesting things. I am a grouch simply because I don't think anything that nature could have stumbled into will make a difference. And that is the main thing. Is it something that nature could have stumbled into? And I'll tell you why. We are already the Methuselahs of the mammalian family. And the reason why we get 3.5 billion heartbeats, and most mammals get 1 billion. Apes get 1.5, 2 billion. The reason for that is very simple. In order to become intelligence, we had to spill fetuses into the world. Those fetuses bat against the world and are utterly helpless, completely helpless until they're 25, 26, 27 years old. You can tell what age my kids are. Good, at least one of you smiled. The question is, how could we possibly do that with a 27, 28, 29-year lifespan? We couldn't. So our increased lifespan was driven by the need to take care of these useless fetuses long enough for them to gain intelligence the hard way by making lots of mistakes. In order to do that, we needed grandparents. Now, the main reason why the results for mice don't work with us is because we already flicked all those switches in order to become the Methuselahs of mammals. Now, if a switch is easy, like some small molecule nature could have provided us, I predict it will not work for us. But if it's difficult, if it's complex, if nature would not have stumbled into it, I think science could very well find ways to slam us beyond the wall, which is 130 years. Now, getting more and more of us to that wall, that's something that I think is within reach. Going beyond the wall is going to take real serious breakthrough science. And when we do that, when we go to where nature can't go, there will be side effects. And I write about those. They make grist for good science fiction.
All right, David, thank you so much for your time. I think we need to wrap the event up since we're running out of time, but it was brilliant listening to you. Truly appreciate it. Great talk. And thank you again. The community has greatly appreciated it.